Hey guys, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be talking about creating charts and graphs in a spreadsheet software. And we're going to be using Google Sheets for our software today. So there are a few small differences in charting and graphing between Google Sheets and Excel, and I'll try to point those out as we go. But let's go ahead and get started. So this is the Excel graphing sheet. You should find this in Canvas. If you need to go back and grab that, you can. You'll want to create a copy of it. So just like before, go up to File and make a copy. And I would recommend renaming this to have your name on it just in case. So I'm going to add my name on the front of this. And then you've got a copy that's not view only, and you'll be able to edit in it. So if you're having a hard time editing it, make sure to go in and create that copy. So this has 3 different sheets. I'm going to walk you through the first 2, and then you'll be working on the last one on your own. So on the first sheet here, we have a budget. This should look familiar. We've used this budget on some of our assignments before with our formulas and functions. But in this case, today we want to actually create a graph or a chart out of this data. So the first thing to note when you're making a graph is when you select the data, you want to make sure that you select the header row, the row with all of the information about what the columns are about. And the one thing you don't want to select is the totals down at the bottom or off to the right-hand side. Just for fun, I'm going to include these totals just so that you can see why you don't, but you'll never want to do this. So just watch for a second here. If I go in and insert a new chart, there it is. If you look at this, all of the data is so tiny because of the totals. When the totals get in there, it skews a lot of the data and makes everything look really, really small compared to those gigantic totals. And so when you have totals in the data, it makes things look really weird. So we don't want to have our totals in there because it makes the rest of the graph proportionately small and difficult to read. So I'm going to delete that chart here. And we're going to try this again. This time we're going to select the data without the totals, and it's going to go a lot better for us. So I'm just going to grab from A4, where it says department, down to D11, the end of the change column. And then to create the chart, I did it before, we're going to walk you through it now. You're going to go up to Insert and select where it says Chart. Now, when we select the chart, there's a lot of different types of charts we can select from, and Google Sheets and Excel does this too. It's going to try and guess which one is the best one for you. In this case, it guessed a column, and I would agree with it because when you look at our data, so I'm going to slide this over so you can see the data, we've got multiple different columns of data. We've got 2016, 2017, and the change. Anytime you're dealing with lots of different types of data together at once, a column chart is a really great way to display that. There's some line charts and others as well that can be useful, but the column one is the most common and the one we'll use in this class. So this is our column chart. Now, down at the very bottom of this column chart, we've got all of the different categories, and then the columns represent the different years. And this is a really great way to look at the data if you want to understand the difference for each category between 2016 and 2017. But there is also another feature that can change the data for us. If you go all the way down to the very bottom of this setup editor, the chart editor off to the right-hand side here, there's an option called Switch Rows and Columns. If I click on that, watch what happens. You can see that now it's actually flipped your categories and your years. Now the years are at the bottom and the columns represent the categories. So if you wanted to look at 2016, 2017, and the change and maybe see which categories had the biggest changes, this would be a really great view to see that because you can compare each category year by year. You know, which category in 2016 had the most budget? Which category had the greatest change from 16 to 17, positive or negative? Those are really great ways to look at the data here. And then if you wanted to look at the different categories side by side for a particular year, you could have it in its original view. So this is a fun feature that's available in Google Sheets and Excel. that allow you to get 2 different questions answered from the same set of data simply by flipping the order in which it's displayed. So I'm going to have that stay checked. For the assignment today, you're going to leave that checked for this spreadsheet so that I know that you know how to use that feature. So we're going to switch the columns and rows on this. The only other thing we're going to change for this graph is to go up and change the title. So you can see as I hover my mouse over it, the title has a little box around it. If I double click on that title, it'll go into an edit mode. And what I'd like to do is delete this title. The title that Google Sheets put in there is descriptive based on the columns, and it really doesn't sound great. So what I'd like to do is call this projected budget. And then the other thing I can do is on that title, if I come over to the right side to the chart editor, it switched over to the customize section because I double clicked on that header of that title. And I can come down to the tile format and I want to center align it, and let's make it bold while we're there. I think it looks a whole lot better in the middle than it does off to the left hand side. Now the last thing we're going to do is move this chart. So if you click the chart so you get the little square boxes around it, you can slide this chart off to the right-hand side so it's out of the way. We never want the chart to cover the original data. This original data we call the data set because that's the set of data where we got the information to build our chart. So we want the data set to be viewable so that people can get the details if they want. We don't want to cover that data set. If your screen isn't quite as big as mine, you can adjust your chart just like you would an image. To resize it to make sure that they both fit on the screen. Once you've got those sized and positioned right, we are finished with the first sheet. So let's go ahead and jump over to the second one. Remember that to change from one sheet to another, that's the tabs down at the bottom. So we're going to go to the phone sheet. And the phone sheet only has one column of data instead of the budget sheet that had multiple columns of data. So really with the phone sheet, all we're interested in on this graph is to kind of visualize the percentage of a whole. So how much of the total 2017 phone bill did January represent or October represent? So anytime we're looking at a percentage of a whole, the best chart for that is a pie chart. So this time we're going to use a pie chart for this. So part of the things that the state wants us to learn about doing charts and graphs is not just how to build them, but which ones are the most appropriate charts for the situation. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. Let's go ahead and create a new pie chart. So we're going to go up to Insert again. We're going to select Chart. And then it chose a line chart. A line chart does work for this kind of data, but again, I feel like the better chart for this is going to be a pie chart. So we're going to come down. You have to scroll quite a ways, but you've got the pie charts here. You've got a 2D pie chart, a donut, or a 3D pie chart. I'm a fan of the 3D charts, so we're going to do a 3D chart on this one. And then you can see this kind of shows us, based on the size of the pie, what percentage of the whole each month represents. So really quickly, you can see that January was probably your biggest month percentage-wise, and it looks like it is. So that's a really good visual way to see the data. And that's the whole purpose of a chart or a graph. The whole purpose of creating charts and graphs is to create a visual representation of the data that makes it easy to read for other viewers who may not be familiar with the numbers themselves. It also makes it faster for us to process and analyze information when it's visual like this. So there's a lot of value to these charts and graphs. All right, so we've created our chart. I want to show you just a couple of things really quick. First of all, if we're looking at, let's go to Customize, and let's take a look at our chart style. There's a lot of things that we can change in the style of a chart itself. For example, we can change colors. So let's say maybe I want to make my background green. Let's, for this assignment, create a green background for it. And the border, let's go ahead and create a really dark green border to it. So I could change some of the colors if I wanted to. I could resize. I mean, you can resize the entire chart area like we've done before. Or if I wanted to, if I double click this to come back to the chart editor, I can even resize the chart itself. So if I click this little maximize button, it will get rid of a lot of the extra data like the header and those sorts of things and leave me just the chart and the legend or key, which is right here. So there's different ways you can resize it. There's different ways you can recolor it. In Microsoft Excel, you have even more options where you can create some border shading, or you can even round the edges of the corners a bit to make it look really professional. But those kind of features are not available in Google Sheets. Google tends to be a little more simpler, going for simplicity and free cost and easy to use. So those features may appear on your multiple choice tests, but they won't be available here in Google Sheets because, again, we're using that instead of Excel. All right, so let's have you create the green background and the green border like I did, and then maximize the chart so that I can see you know how to use that feature, and then go ahead and move the chart away from your data set again so that the data set is fully visible. Once you've done that, that's all we're doing with the second chart. So if you go down to the tabs at the bottom, you'll have a sales sheet. I'm not going to walk you through this one. I want you to do this one on your own, but step-by-step instructions are available in Canvas for this assignment, and everything that you'll need is something that we've already done in one of the other two sheets. So go ahead and work on this one, and then save that and submit it to Canvas like you've done with the others.